Good morning, the Bromfields in the 35 corridor. I'm D. Lee Edwards here, the host of the Real Deal Real Estate Show. And today's special guest is Justin Friesenhahn of TNF Construction. We're going to be discussing commercial construction trends, supply chain, and more. But first, it's time for the New Braunfels Title Market Report. Today, we're looking at Hays County, and sales have declined in the last month. 983 homes sold in the last 90 days and 323 in the last 30. But when reviewing more recent numbers, actually the numbers are up a little bit from last month. Just compared to last year, we're a little bit under. Availability is down slightly in Hays with only 1,503 homes on the market. That's still a big number with 4.8 months of inventory. There are 6 homes under 200,000 on the market, 112 from 200 to 300. That's up. 468 homes from 300 to 400,000. That's up a little bit, but only 257 available from 4 to 500, and over 500,000 declined, but still a massive 663 homes available over 500,000. Now, mortgage rates inched up for a 30-year conventional is at 7.45 this week, with 15-year at 6.92. What was a surprise is that FHA declined to 6.77 and VA to 6.78. That in spite of what the bond market did this week, with the 91-day T-bill staying steady at 5.285%. The 2-year Treasury inched down to 4.838, and the 10-year lowered to 4.453. Now, that should have caused conventional finance to pull back a little bit. It didn't, but we look for it to reset by the time we get to, the day before Thanksgiving. Wall Street Journal reported on Wednesday that several key economists say the inflation number's actually sinking to where the Fed wants it, and the economy is still somewhat robust, mostly meaning a soft landing and not a recession. There's still some people that think we're going to have one, but that's a fight between the bull and the bears on Wall Street. The bull believes its market rose this week with the Dow hitting 34,874, while the S&P was up to 44,094, and the Nasdaq crossed 14,000 to 14,056. We'll see if that holds. But, if you watch the market every day, it's like a yo-yo anyway. Now, some would say don't get too excited about all of this mess, because usually we have the Thanksgiving turkey bump, or sometimes down. So we'll see what we're really looking at and what they look at toward Black Friday as we get through next week. With mortgage rates holding lower than they were 4 weeks ago, applications were up again, giving housing boost. But that's existing housing. In the current market, it'll take a little bit to see if we're really holding on. Housing prices will bottom out in the next 3 months, so if price matters, you might be looking at needing to jump in and buy now before the interest rates start to change and come down and people start getting back in the market and buying, driving the prices up. Wall Street thinks the Fed will start cutting rates aggressively soon. I hate to differ. They're not going to start coming down to probably mid-2024, maybe a little bit, but they've got to give it at least 90 days to 120 days to make sure that inflation is where they want it. Consumer spending fell in October. That helps the inflation factor, but Christmas buying could change the question. It just depends on how much debt we're willing to take on to keep Johnny, Mary, and Hector in toys. And with new interest rates on credit cards being north of 18%, it could be, a real painful January. The job market cooled unless you were in healthcare, government, or construction. Go figure, government employment. Otherwise, the rest of it was lagging behind. Only 150,000 jobs were added in October, most of that in healthcare. Home builder sentiment dropped to the lowest level this year, according to the National Association of Home Builders and Wells Fargo Housing Market Index, Single Family Housing Market Index. That's what they count with points. Well, normally we should run in the 50s and 60s, and this week we hit 40, which is the lowest number since January. Now, WeWork Experiment tanks. It filed bankruptcy, and large office holdings in big boxes is laboring. Look for markets like San Francisco, L.A., New York, Chicago to take a bath in, well, the fact that they can't fill office space. But there's good news. We have such a demand for housing that if interest rates will adjust a little bit in mid-2024, we might just be remodeling a bunch of these offices into condos. Oil continued its slide, with West Texas Intermediate hitting $72.80 a barrel. Now that's down $15 from just 5 weeks ago. Oil prices are riding on whether China and OPEC will keep production levels the same and China doesn't continue to consume mass amounts of petrol. Wow. The move to EV, electric vehicles, it's hit a bump in the road. Lucid reports losses, you won't believe this number, $228,000 per car they've sold. I didn't misstate that. $228,000 loss per car. Now, that kind of goes with why Ford, GM, and Toyota are backing off of EVs, and the national infrastructure is not there. It's not easy to refuel. The distance travelers just can't use it until we get solar built-in chargers in our cars, and EV chargers on every block. Don't look for this to be a boom. But hybrids are going to be bigger, and the majors are starting to look at it more. Home sales down, prices pulling back, inventory still strong, interest rates better, stock market up, oil way down, rental market improves for landlords slightly, home builders feel worse, recession may be avoided, and next week is Thanksgiving, and plenty to be thankful for. So just remind yourself that, and then we'll worry about all of the other, BS out of D.C. later. So that's The Real Deal. And we're back on The Real Deal Real Estate Show, and our special guest today is Justin Friesenecht of TNF Construction. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Well, good. Glad to have you on. And as a reminder, this segment of the show is brought to you by Meyer Heating and Air Conditioning, keeping you comfortable all year long. So, Justin, tell us a little bit about TNF.
TNF Construction is a commercial general contractor. We were established in 1972, so a little over 50 years now. And we do design, build, new construction, remodels, tenant finish outs.
Good. Now, of the things that you specialize, what's kind of one of your fortes or favorites in building lately?
We do a lot of work for the Archdiocese of San Antonio, so we do ground-up new churches, and those are always exciting.
Well, because of all the different features in stained glass and all of that.
Exactly.
Now, you've been building several office complexes around here in town. Tell us, in the last 2 years, what your biggest demand has been, and maybe one or two of your crown jewels, so to say.
We have done, we went into some commercial lease space applications, so we did quite a few, probably close to 100,000 square feet over by Resolute Hospital. And then we did another 80,000 off of Oak Run Parkway. So those were probably our two crown jewels here locally.
Well, great. Now, how's the supply chain treating you?
Supply chain's a whole lot better than it was a couple of years ago. For instance, windows and doors are back down to their normal lead times. Pricing overall has stabilized. It didn't come down as far as where it started from, but it hasn't been fluctuating as much as it was there the last couple of years.
So you probably just saw them go flat versus pull back a point or two?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Is there any area where you did get a break? I know there for a while lumber You know, we were seeing some big swings in that and sheetrock. And then once we got some stable inventory, we see some pullback on that because there for a while, studs and so on were pretty outrageous.
Right. Not only was the pricing outrageous, but again, that lead time, that just the opportunity to get the material was rough. We were having to substitute items on projects just because of availability. Overall, all that has seemed to come back to the norm.
What about full fuel surcharge?
They did not go away once the companies were able to get that. They've maintained that.
Just like government, once they can hit you with a fee, it ain't going away.
That's right.
Lately, some of the cities have felt like they're French, and somebody said, "Why?" Because I went fee. That's what they're doing now. They're just saying fee with everything. Okay, now, what are you seeing still as obstacles to efficient building?
The first one is just really the design and permitting applications throughout San Antonio, New Braunfels, Seguin. Just trying to navigate those options with the city. You know, tenant finish out is typically a little quicker, whereas a new construction, you're dealing with civil engineering, water, wastewater, utilities. There's a lot going on there that we have to work through.
A lot of complaints I'm hearing in the general construction area, whether it be residential or in commercial, but especially in commercial, is that where we were getting turned around on permitting in 60 to 90 days, we're now seeing times as much as 6 months to a year because of things like third-party review, where the product is shipped out to, say, Austin or San Antonio by some engineering firm that just reads code and then marks it up accordingly, some of which has nothing to do with construction all over. It's more like semantics and, you know, did you misspell the word circumference or whatever?
Correct, yes. So we are seeing that 6-7 month turnaround on permits. A lot of that has to do with just response time sometimes from our engineers. And then again, that third-party review does impact that process.
Plus, if you come back and you fix something and then you resubmit it, then you're back in the queue again, and they can take up to 30 to 45 days to get back to you. So it's also the amount of time it goes from here to the third party to back to you to the discussion. So it's really the mechanism in some ways is the problem.
Correct, and all the cities really require a holistic application. So once you submit everything, you get comments from 5-6 different departments at the city, and then you can't respond until you have everything back again. So you can't take care of one item until you have all of them.
Well, and then that creates a problem itself because each department, well, all right, I finished mine, so now it's been sent to fire, and then from fire it goes to plumbing. And then when you have detached, and I think what people really don't know is, you know, the big deal is you get hung up in one department, or the fact that no longer is it city water and sewer. You may be city permit for here, but the utilities are coming from another third party, Green Valley or Spring Hill or Crystal Clear, and in some cases you're working in muds and so on. So it really becomes complicated because it's not a unified system.
You're right. Every entity has their own application process, and then what their requirements are. So you have to navigate that every time. It's a little different.
Now, has it improved with NBU, where I know for a while we had a shortage on transformers and we were having a hard time getting our electric put through and trying to get service? Has that picked up some pace?
We have seen that. Again, depending on the size of the project, if you're running a 200 amp or 400 amp service, hasn't been too much of an issue. 800 amp even's been okay. You start getting higher than that, then you'll start seeing the lead times again.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised on a household deal where we were going to upgrade electrical from 200 amp to 300 amp, and it was almost 2 to 3 weeks out, even with everything in place, permit in place and everything else, until they could get to us to make that change, because they have to cut the power, you have to do the installation, and then they have to tie it back in, and your electricians have to be there. And that was shocking for me that they said, well, they only do like four of those placements a day. And I go, in a city of 130,000, that means they've got a limitation on crews.
Right. And another thing we've seen on the electrical side is just the actual panels. So we can get the panel itself, but not necessarily the guts. So all the breakers, all the bus, all that items, they been causing us problems as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, nothing is timely, efficient, and so on and so forth. Is that driving costs up?
It's not necessarily driving the cost up, but just the timelines on projects where we're trying to maybe turn around a tenant finish out in 90, maybe 120 days. Sometimes we're not able to get the panels before 5-6 months.
Well, if I'm borrowing that money, the cost went up because I got interest carry. So that can have an effect. Now, how do you see construction going for next year? Are you seeing a lot of demand? Are you getting an opportunity to do a lot of bids right now?
We are. We're holding pretty steady right now. We have several projects that we're trying to wrap up. We have several already on the horizon, either in permitting process or just finalizing contracts. And we have several that are bidding out, hopefully by the end of the year. So I think overall it's holding pretty true. Again, New Braunfels, San Antonio, Austin area has been steady and growing for the last 5, 8, 10 years.
We've seen a number of your signs coming in, so on and so forth, which usually is a pretty strong indication that you're a growing company. Have you had pretty good growth in the last 2 years?
We have brought on additional superintendents, and right now we're spread out from Divine to Kyle to down to Gonzales and then up in the Bulverde area.
Wow. Now that's a surprise. We didn't realize that you were really widespread that far being that business. So that stands to your reputation.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell us, how can folks get a hold of TNF Construction if they'd like to have a bid for their next commercial project?
You can reach out by phone at 830-625-1984. Or you can email me directly at justin@tnfco.com.
Well, great. We really appreciate you coming out today and spending some time talking about TNF Construction, Justin Friesenhuhn. And congratulations on your growth and how much you're doing better. The reputation we're hearing is good. And by the way, they are one of our go-to pros when it comes to, hey, and we're back on the Real Deal Real Estate Show in just such a short couple of minutes. And it's time for Lee's Hot Picks of the Week. Now, the first one is a fixer-upper at 232 Covenant in Kyle. That's because we're talking about Hays County today. It's 1,599 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-story home in Kensington Trails. It's offered by Wedgwood Homes and Realty. This home has an open floor plan, good-sized lot, but it needs foundation work and repair afterward and flooring replacement, and it's priced at $156 a foot. Well, I think with some real negotiations, like really take into consideration the cost of that foundation and negotiating it down and a few things on the up repair, you could turn this into a real 2 or 3 jalapeno deal. Right now at $249.9, it's a 1 jalapeno deal, but get you a good agent. Go see what you can do. Next up, 1360 Cherrywood in Kyle is offered by Austin Davis of Home and Land Equity. The 3-bedroom, 2-bath contemporary features tile and laminate floors, open floor plan with fireplace, open kitchen, ample counter space, extra large master bath with tub and shower, nice outdoor patio, and a covered patio. So it's kind of a twofold with a pergola and 1,630 square feet in the house. It's $171.78 a foot. That's a really good price. And that's a 2 jalapeno deal at $280,000. Now, we found a solid deal at $500,000. Yep, that's at 500 Evergreen Sumac. It's in the Loop at Kyle. It's a South Grove home offered by D.R. Horton. It's all brand new. And why does it make a deal? 2,608 square feet, 2,608 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, priced at $155.67 a foot. That's a screamer and brand new. And they've got interest buy down and a couple of other things. Really hard to beat that price, folks. It's a 3 jalapeno deal. Now, for these and other great deals, go to DealeyEdwardsRealty.com and search the entire internet through IDX, that's Internet Data Exchange, or call 830-620-7653. That's 830-620-SOLD, and speak to one of our great agents like Adam Perez. Now, for these and other great deals, listen to the Real Deal Real Estate Show every Saturday morning, where you can also hear financial information, real estate news, a little bit about politics, and always some great person on the show like Justin Friesenhahn showing you a way to, well, take your money a little further. So until next Saturday at 10 a.m. on KGMB 1420 AM and 103.1 FM, I'm D. Lee